welcome back. And we're going into the news review in a little bit, but Gifty, shall we do the COVID update?
Certainly.
Okay.
So, as I earlier told you, when I opened the show, the cases are going up. Now, there you have it from the website of the Ghana Health Service. Now, the active cases, we're looking at 658 new cases. That makes our active cases 2,413. Yesterday, we were around 2,100 and something. So you can actually tell the jump. Confirmed cases, 59,000. That's the total we've had so far, 480. But today, you know, the latest update puts us at 658 plus. 361 people have died. Now, notice the difference. I think that the last time we also did an update, the deaths were around 3,000 and 300, yeah. And now we're looking at 361 deaths. It doesn't really look good at all.
Well, yeah. So should we go into the newspapers?
Yeah, certainly.
Okay, I'm going to start with the Daily Guide this morning. And Nana names 46 ministers. Osafoma for out. That's the headline on the front page of the Daily Guide. So, well, let me just run through quickly some of the names. So, Attorney General Godfred Yeboah-Dame becomes the substantive Attorney General. And is also then the youngest Attorney General in Ghana's history. Outgoing Deputy Chief of Staff Francis Asenso Boakye will be going to Ministry of Works and Housing. Ken Ofori-Atta retained as Finance Minister. Albert Kandapa also retained as National Security Minister. Dominic Nitiwol retained as Defense Minister. Ambrose Derry retained as Interior Minister. Osei Mensah-Bonsu returned as Minister for Parliamentary Affairs. I'm sure you've seen that list, so I won't go through all of them, but 46 ministers named. Other stories on the front page of the Daily Guide. Mahama wants petition hearing halted. Coup plotters jury is ready. MPP's Amwako Tufor dies. Very sad news that came through yesterday. There's a lot happening in the US if you go to page 5 of the Daily Guide. So Biden has signed an order to end the Muslim ban. He's also rejoined the Paris climate deal and the WHO. Remember that Trump had started to withdraw the United States from the World Health Organization. But Biden has signed to take that back. He's also asked Dr. Anthony Fauci, who is the director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, Dr. Anthony Fauci, to head the executive board representing the U.S. at the WHO ongoing meeting. So that's what's happening in the U.S. Looks like Biden is trying to reverse some of the decisions that were made by Donald Trump. On the back page of the Daily Guide, Ghanaian clubs don't have money. That's quite obvious, but Right to Dream appoints first Ghanaian director. And Valencia is hot because there's a sex scandal that they are dealing with over there. Former President Pedro Cortes is under investigation for alleged inappropriate sexual conduct toward a club youth player. So that's it for the Daily Guide.
All right, let me take you through the Daily Graphic newspaper. But of course, it's a story that everybody else is reporting. President selects ministers is how the Daily Graphic, puts it, and it comes with a picture of a few of the notable ones. And the Daily Graphic sort of breaks down the release by Eugene Ahin and tells you the reason. So it first of all talks about how the current administration intends to realign ministries. It talks a little bit more about the reduction and the reasons given for the reduction, and then how certain ministries will be operating, and then the fact that there was a meeting at which this information was shared with all those involved or those who are expected to be stakeholders. That is on page 3 of the Daily Graphic newspaper. If you do grab a copy, you can take a look at that analysis that they made there. On the center spread of the Daily Graphic, you've got ECOWAS talking about vaccination, saying vaccinate citizens against COVID-19. ECOWAS members urged. And then Yeah, you have lawyers being advised to live above approach, obviously. On the back page, 6 die in Tamale Bupe road accident. And you do know that road crashes continue to claim a whole lot of lives. And we've launched a campaign here together with the National Road Safety Authority called Arrive Alive. We're trying our best, and all of us have to do the rest, you know. So 6 people have died in an accident that occurred in Paha Junction along the Tamale Bupe Highway in the Savannah region at dawn yesterday. Also, wire mesh fencing on highways destroyed as pedestrians abandon footbridge. This one is a portion, on the back page, you have a portion of the wire mesh fencing at Malam Junction that has been pulled down. So this is essentially individuals. I mean, it's mind-boggling. Individuals just trying to cross the road this way instead of using whatever other alternatives there are, pulling down the wire mesh just to make their way through. It's pretty sad. Yeah, I mean, take a look at the Daily Graphic. But other stories on the front page of the Daily Graphic: mourners to don special clothes for Rawlings' funeral, and on that story you have a what looks like a sample of the special clothes. Ghana they pay you. Then they've called it the official family funeral fabric produced by GTP. And false news on COVID-19 is a major challenge. Professor Tego is saying that story is on page 13 of the Daily Graph newspaper.
Okay, I'm going to do the Ghanaian Times now. So front page story, as can be expected, of course. President nominates 46 ministers, designate, sends list to Parliament. Gifty, now this is a story that makes me happy.
Okay.
505 offenders arrested in Accra and Tema, compulsory wearing of nose masks. And of course, I'm not happy that they're in custody, but I feel like it's a major deterrent.
Message.
Yes, yeah. A major good message putting out there that, look, we are on the watch, and if you're going to go out and you're going to just not wear your face mask, we will. But except that the people that they've caught who are sitting in front of the police whatever, are all maskless at this point.
I think, and that's the biggest problem that's coming up now. And I mean, the police are my friends, but I think that something drastic ought to happen in the way that the arrests are made. Yesterday, they made some 100 arrests in Cape Coast as well. And I looked at the way that the officers were shoving, you know, the people they were arresting. And the way, I mean, I think that the way the arrests were made were not dignifying enough. They were a bit disrespectful to the people that have been arrested. But I did ask Kojo Nyako whether some of them were resisting, because if you resist, then you give the police the chance to also, you know, mishandle you. And he said some of them were resisting. Then they took them to the station and started sharing masks, giving them masks and then put them in a bigger room, as against the first arrest we saw in Accra, where they crammed them up in a very tiny room. But why don't you just take the mask in your car when you go out there to arrest them, and you take them,
give it to them, and then you put them in the car?
Exactly, and arrest them, because they put them all in one bus after they arrested them and drove them to the station. Then they gave them the masks.
Yeah, it doesn't really make sense.
It doesn't. But yeah, I mean, we make our mistakes.
And then we learn from them. Anyway, so these 505 people who were arrested, there's 400 of them from Accra, and 105 were rounded up in various parts of the Tema metropolis. So Nima, Cantonments, Weja, East Legon, Peshi, and Mamprobi. This is where these people were arrested. So coming to an area near you, FYI, if you're walking around without a nose mask. So that's the story. There's also government urge to set up infrastructure fund for health facilities. We are anticipating, I think, on a certain level that our healthcare facilities will be a little bit full, perhaps because of the rising COVID-19 numbers. So it's important that, you know, we get some money put aside so that we can start to expand and perhaps finish that 8-bed facility at Kolebu. I think that's a good place to start. Daniel Daze was there a few days ago. We brought that report to you. On the middle page of the Ghanaian Times, government urged to set up infrastructure fund for health facilities. Be circumspect in commenting on SC hearing of election petition. this is Dr. Aidu Jemfi speaking. He's the chairman of the National Peace Council. Reverend Dr. Enes, he's admonished the public to exercise a lot of circumspection in their comments on the ongoing election petition hearing at Supreme Court. A lot of times when we don't really understand the technicalities of things and we start to comment, it's very easy to create some false information, you know, which can then incite, you know, tempest and all. And you know how these political things are. They're very volatile.
And this is a case in court. Technically, when cases are in court, you want to, I mean, you probably can mention it, but I mean, you cannot touch on the substantive matter and discuss it in public. You put yourself very close to contempt.
If you do that, yes. Okay, on the back page of the Ghanaian Times, Techiman Education Directorate supports schools to fight COVID-19 and more passengers are wearing nose masks following enforcement. So it looks like the enforcement is already working. There are much more people wearing their face masks. Apparently, it's no face mask, no passengers. That's the motto at the lorry stations. So if you want to pick passengers, then you have to make sure that they're wearing masks. So it's great to get the drivers and the mates, you know, on board with that policy. But that's the Ghanaian Times.
I have the Daily Statement to continue. Other stories apart from President Akufo-Addo naming his list of nominees. The story is on page 3, and it says that the EC has opened nominations for the Council of State Elections. It comes with a picture of Madam Jane Mensah, who is, by the way, in court. John Mahama has taken her there, and the EC and her there. The other story they have there is that Ghana School of Railways officially opens. Oh, I didn't know there was a Ghana School of Railways. And Mahama seeks stay of proceedings of election petition. NPP accuses him of time wasting. Indeed, this has been the back and forth that we've had. NDC, the NPP has always accused the NDC that they're deliberately wasting wasting time, delaying the process so they can have some sort of public sympathy, if you like, or win in the court of public opinion, etc. Indeed, Kojo Ponkuma had indicated that they expect the NDC to file. Yeah, no, to file to file a stay of proceedings, which they have done. Politicians, they know each other very well. They can predict, do the chess.
Well, I mean, apparently the NDC is using almost the same strategy that the NPP used when they were on the other side of the election petition. So I mean, it's just what it is, you know.
Yeah. Okay. Well, here. All right. Medical doctor. Okay. So there's a story here that says Napo medical doctor who made history as education minister, part 2. What kind of history is it?
I thought you were going to fill us in on what kind of history.
Well, let's see. I'm not quite sure. This is written by Opari Jan, and oh wow, I see. Okay, so it says the immediate past Minister of Education was the only minister in recent times to have steered affairs without workers in the education sector embarking on strikes. Really? Okay. Well, we can have a debate on that one as well, because, I mean, this story, there's a part where it has a heading called Numerous Achievements, Dr. Prempe in Education in COVID-19 era. I see. Interesting. But we'll be talking to a political scientist, you know, on what we have seen. What does it mean? What does it tell us of events, past events, and what to expect? So, the Daily Statesman, my favorite newspaper, by the way.
After yesterday.
I know, right? Because when I took the paper today, that was the story from yesterday was what I remembered. All right. So, yes, if this works for you, why don't you just grab a copy? I just want to take a look at this page 4 story on the Ghana School of Railways. I'm not quite sure exactly what it's supposed to do, what it's supposed to achieve. It says
it's at the University of Mines.
Okay. Well, the School of Railways and Infrastructure Development, which is part of the University of Mines and Technology, TAQA, has finally started operations. Okay. All programs being offered by the school are engineering courses. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I mean, if we're planning to revitalize and expand the railway sector, you know, it makes sense that we start to educate some specialists. I like the sound of that. I'm not always, as much as I believe in bringing in expatriates, you know, to handle some things when, you know, we don't have the human resource. I also believe in, you know, empowering our own to run, you know, our own stuff. I think that we need to really get to that point where we're doing that. But should I just go to the Ghanaian Observer then?
Yeah.
Okay, so Akufo-Addo outdoors ministers for second term. Mahama wants election petition hearing stayed. Like you said, Kojo Nkrumah says election petition expedition doesn't sacrifice justice. No deputy regional ministers in Akufo-Addo's second term. We read that from Eugene Ahin's communique yesterday. Nominations for Council of State elections opened. And in the middle page, NPP asks Speaker Bagbin to remain impartial as it maintains majority. Mahama's lawyers are creating media spectacle for election 2024. That's Kojo Nkrumah. That's the middle page. And on the back page, of course, football. Ronaldo becomes top goal scorer in football history. 760 goals. But apparently there are actually a few people who are saying that there are other people who scored more, except that they weren't captured. So there's a little bit of contention there. But for captured goals, we have Ronaldo at 760. And Ghana job not done in 3 months, according to German coach Bernard Lippert, who believes that he will need more time to make an impact in his role as Ghana's technical advisor. That's it for the Ghanaian Observer.
I have to find our newspaper. Find our newspaper also reports on President Akufo-Addo's list, but captions it, the wait is over. The story is on page 8. It comes with pictures of some of them. Notable among them, Kojo Nkrumah, the Information Minister Designate Godfrey Adami, Ayakoboche, Dr. Yaodichum, my very favorite as Education Minister. And then it breaks it down and says 30 sector ministers, 16 regional ministers designates named. Other stories, Council 3 salt mining leases granted electrochem. That's according to Adar Priest. Nurses and midwives want to be tested. Tax waiver reinstated. Also on page 4. Mahama prays Supreme Court to stay proceedings in election petition. I just want to go a little bit into the newspaper. And you have quite a number of stories here. I saw one that I wanted to write. So if you go to the center spread of the Finder newspaper, it has a few of the pictures and then has a very lengthy, it's actually a full page of President Akufo-Addo's ministerial designate appointment. Then there is a story that interests me, blood donor tracker application to be launched. The story is written by Thelma Na-Aneko Abe in Accra. It says that a blood donor tracker application is soon to be rolled out in the country to collect data on blood donated by schools and to stop the blood banks in Ghana. I think it's really, really cool. For a while now, we haven't really spoken about blood donations here. So I think this is really cool and ought to be, widely discussed. Then Car Powership Ghana gives Ayepe Memorial Kindergarten block facelift. We did that story here on Joy News yesterday. And GEA urges employers to revisit safety protocols. We certainly should. So grab yourself a copy of the Finder newspaper if it's your choice.
Okay, well, my last two papers, the Publisher and the Daily Dispatch. I'll just run through the headlines very quickly. New Year School calls for a health fund, urges government to provide all educational institutions with broadband. That's interesting. Maturity exposes NDC's obstructionist agenda to disrupt government's business in Parliament. Okay, Mahama files suit to halt petition. Akufo-Addo picks ministers. And if you missed, there's a full list of ministers, page 4 and 5 of the Ghanaian Publisher as well. The Daily Dispatch, Akufo-Addo's list out 2020 parliamentary results. NPP's founding member, Dr. Marco Tufo, passes on. Mahama files application to stop the hearing of his petition pending an appeal. And Frema Osei Opare, the first chief of staff to serve 2 terms. So congratulations to her. That's on the back page of the Daily Dispatch. And I am done with my newspapers.
Okay,
Gifty.
my final 2, the Custodian and the Republic Press. The Custodian, yes, the banner headline for the Custodian is Mahama files for stay of proceedings, election petition case. So an update on that. It also reports on the president's nominations. And then the NPP caucus fingers. It's been a while since I saw this word in the newspaper. NPP caucus fingers NDC for obstructionist agenda. Is that story not the same thing you read over there?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
I see. Okay.
Some collabos going on.
Mahama files for still proceedings. That story is there as well. A couple of other stories here too. Legon to continue online teaching and learning. According to the Pro-Vice Chancellor, we certainly should. And the Republic puts hearing on hold. Mahama tells Supreme Court pretty much the same stories. NPP loses Dr. Amwako to 4. That's a sad one that came up yesterday. Most of the newspapers aren't even reporting it. Dr. Makutu 4, that story is on page 3. Let me see if we can take a look at that particular story. It says, founding member of the governing New Patriotic Party, Dr. Kwame Amakutu 4, has passed on. He reportedly died at a 37 military hospital after battling with coronavirus complications. Dr. Tufo was a former national coordinator of the school feeding program, and he also served as an advisor to President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. He adds to the list of several high-profile personalities who have succumbed to the coronavirus in Ghana. So far, 358 persons have died, and the active cases 2,178 as of the time that this newspaper was went to press. But we know that the number has increased this hour. Dr. Kwame Tufo was an accomplished academic. He was a politician, a businessman. He talks about when he was born and where he lived, where he graduated, and the businesses that he did. May his soul rest in peace. It is not getting any, exciting. It's getting uglier by the day. And maybe a little bit totally unrelated because we're not sure whether he had COVID-19 or not. So that's what the newspaper is reporting.
Okay, but I saw this meme a few days ago which said that the numbers are turning to names and the names are turning into people we know.
Yes.
So it's very scary. Also, scary is that Greater Accra, well, we've always had the highest number of COVID-19 cases, but even with the increase, we're still, at the highest Greater Accra in terms of the number of COVID-19 cases. Yeah. So I'm not sure in the following the weeks that are to come what Ghana is going to look like. Because the president said in his address last week that if the cases continue to rise at the rate at which they are, then he will be forced to put in place, some restrictions. Yeah. So we don't want to obviously go ahead of him and, start to talk about that and say that, okay, this is what's going to happen. But it is, for me, and it's a personal opinion, it is looking like that's the direction we're heading in. Because the cases have not started coming down, actually steadily increasing. Our kids are out there in school. Life is pretty much normal, except, people see the police and then they're running to buy face masks, or taking their face masks out of their pockets and stuff. So it will be interesting to see what the country looks like in a few weeks.
Maybe one of the things that we can do, we can bring back, if we get the chance, the story from Cape Coast yesterday that was filed by Richard Kojo Nyako, where the police made those arrests. So people can take a look. I mean, obviously, you don't want to be that person that got arrested the way they got arrested yesterday. But, I mean, I think the police should begin to review their processes when it comes to the arrest and how the arrests are conducted. Yesterday, the good thing we saw something different from what happened the very first arrest in Accra. In the very first arrest, we saw a group of people who were arrested, put in a tiny little room, and they had babies wearing masks. Those who were wearing had it on their chin, etc. Then yesterday, what we saw happening in Cape Coast was that they were arrested. The police officers themselves were wearing gloves, wearing their masks. Then they crammed them all up in one bus, took them to the station. Of course, they put them in a bigger hall and separated them. The social, physical distancing was observed. But when you try to enter, they give you a mask. Those masks, like I said earlier, could have been given to them at the point of arrest to avoid any transmission of infection should any of them be infected. And then in Wali Wali, 2 of the people in custody tested positive for COVID-19. So then we have to go back and test all these police officers who interacted with this person. We have to also test the other prisoners that they were figure out. So, I mean, these are some of the things that we can do to reduce the instances of having people in our custody being infected who intend
infects other people.
People, exactly.
But moving away from COVID for a second, Ashanti region has top teenage pregnancy cases. 1,000 cases of teenage pregnancy in 2 years. So,
what does the story say?
Okay, it's not actually a story. It's a breakdown of the statistics. Okay. So there's 128 cases in upper primary, JHS 783, and then 310 cases in the senior high schools, which brings us to a cumulative figure of 1,228.
For which period?
2018, 2019. So they're now collecting the data for 2020, but she's expecting, that's Miss Hannah Mponsa, she's a regional girl child coordinator of the GS, is expecting that that figure will go up.
I do too.
Because of the COVID-19 wave, the lockdown, the shutdown of schools, and the teenage, and all of that. So they feel like, kids had a lot more time to get into all these things. Are we talking to our children about safe sex? I'm wondering, because I know that we're very hard on celibacy, we're very hard on sex, don't have sex before marriage. And they hear that a lot in the churches and in their schools, but are we also teaching them safe sex? Because obviously, they're not really listening to us, are they? So of course, it becomes, and it's always been the argument, do you, provide them with the tools for them to have safe sex, or do you dig your head in the sand, bury your head in the sand, and say, okay, no, they're not actually, because they're not.
I know, I get that. I have a very different opinion, by the way. I'm sure.
I would be surprised if you did it.
Yes. I know. We can talk about my opinions later. But yeah, Anymore is the one that has kids. I don't.
It doesn't mean you can't talk about it.
I will talk about it. I mean, I do talk about it, but my opinions are different. But I'm saying that perhaps my opinions are influenced by different things as they are as yours. Exactly. But the WhatsApp line, and we want you to get interactive with us, be a part of the show. This is your show, by the way. It's 0540109009. COVID statistics are going up. Many more people have died. Over 600 new cases have been reported. Our active cases now 2,413. As scary as it is, let's wear the mask. It's not too much. Let's wear the mask. All right, so we're wrapping up on this part. We'll be doing sports after this, and this is the AM show. We're brightening up your morning. Hopefully, if we are not, send us a message. Let's know how we can do that better.